Everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all having a good day today. It's me, Kareen, obviously. I just am going to jump on, well, I was going to say jump on. This is likely going to be a long video, so spoiler alert. Um, but I'm going to do it as a bonus for my Christmas in July series, because I thought it might be nice to um, show you how I did these cards using Lavinia products. So, I don't know how much talking there will be through the video, so feel free to, fast forward through some of it if you want and whatever. But these are the cards that I made, and they're absolutely adorable using the cottages, the full-size cottages from Lavinia Stamps. And I'll show you what these look like. This is the shanty, and this one is called Bay Leaf Cottage, and this one is called Bumble Lodge. So like, I'm assuming that's because it looks like the hind end of a bumblebee. But yeah, I've got a little bit of sparkle, put some Christmas lights on there, a little bit of snow. So I'm going to walk you through how I did this. Okay. So because these are long and thin stamps, I will be doing it's a slimline sized card. So I'm just going to put these to the side here. So a slimline, this is the standard envelope for a slimline. So this is, which is usually like a business envelope. It's the same size. Okay. And so this is 4 and an eighth, 4 inches, four, I don't know what that would be. 4 and an eighth of an inch. That's not quite right. And 9.5 inches in length. Okay. So in order to do that, what I have done, because it's hard to find pre-made bases um for slimline cards. So I usually make my own. So I have just taken a sheet of my cardstock, so an 8.5 by 11 in length, and I have cut it down to, this is 7.25. You could go, yeah, 7.25, and then I fold it, score it in half, and then I use the other side as my base that I use. So I get the card base and then my card front, and I have cut it down to just enough. I've trimmed the top and the bottom, and then just enough so that I can also mat it as well. So then what I would do is I score this, fold it over. I actually scored it in the wrong spot, but that's okay. So my card's going to be wet today when I'm done, so I won't be able to stick it on the base for you. But so we're going to keep this. So this gets folded to about 3.5 inches is roughly where you want to do it, and then you keep it at the 8.5, right? Okay. And then this will fit into the envelope. See, just like that, it'll fit quite nicely into the envelope. And so that leaves me, so the matte layer that I did is it's about 3.25 inches, just slightly over 3.25, but that's fine. And by uh, 8 and 3/8 of an inch. Okay. And then that leaves my base or my card front this is what I'm actually going to stamp on and work on, et cetera, et cetera. This is now 3 inches by 8 inches. So that'll give me a nice set of layering. Okay. So first of all, I am going to pull out my stamps. So the stamps that I'm going to be using today, I've got these really cute snowflakes. These are from Lavinia, the Lavinia Sentiments, Christmas Blessings. I'll be using those. And the one that I'm going to do today is going to be the Bay Leaf Cottage. So that's this big long one here. All right. This is how I store all of my Lavinia stamps because I carry them in zippered binders so that I can just take everything with me. So it all fits. Well, I was going to say it fits into a binder. It doesn't. I have 3 binders full because I have a problem. If you don't have a problem, good for you. That's wonderful. More power to you. That's excellent. Okay. So I'm going to put this stamp. It's a very long and like a long stamp. So I'm going to put that on my block here. Okay. And this is a set of blocks from Do Crafts. It's pretty old. It even comes with a It's got a little foamy where everything fits into. It's really, really handy for that. Um, but it's yeah, I'm not even sure that they make these anymore. But get yourself a nice long like if you have a nice long stamp block, perfect. If you don't, another good way of doing this is just pick this up, stick it onto your crafting surface, ink this up, and then put your cardstock down on it like that. Okay, and then just give it a nice buff or a nice wipe onto there and transfer it from that way. If you don't have a, or I mean, you can try and do it in your hand or something like that. Or if you've got a, did I actually put them away? I did. Okay. Obviously, you would want one that is slightly longer than this, but even if this is all that you've got, is, stamp, ink up this, you could put it in a stamp platform too. That would also work. But then you can kind of make sure that you get ink on this. And then when you go to put this down, you would obviously put this down kind of like that, hold the end, and then just kind of tap. So hold this down and give gentle pressure here because you don't want to blow it out. You don't want to blow the lines out kind of thing. Okay. So hopefully that helps if you don't happen to have a ginormous stamp block. Again, like if you don't have a problem, I have a problem. Clearly, I have a problem. Okay, so the cardstock that I'm using, this is 110 pound accent opaque. So it's nice bright white. It is not a watercolor. So it will take, there will be some folding and whatever. You can see here, because I am going to be doing some watercoloring, but you can see here where it has lifted in a few areas. But I just use foam tape underneath it to hold it. And that tends to pull out most of the warpage. Okay. But you want something that's going to blend well, take ink well, basically like that. So you don't want it to be too thin for this unless you're using, my challenge is I didn't want to use watercolor cardstock because it's got too many nooks and crannies and I may not get a really good stamped image. And I'm more concerned about the stamp image than I am about the warpage. Okay, so typically I like to, when I'm working with Lavinia, I have a couple of sheets of paper here. This is all the extra cardstock that comes out of a 12 by 12 album, all of the like the cast off that's just in the sleeves when they sell it to you kind of thing. I like to pull it out and I use it for working on my Lavinia items. Just because it gives me a nice base. I don't have to worry about cleaning up. And if I have enough of a stack, I can actually just stamp right into it. But today I only grabbed a few of them for some reason. I don't know why. Lazy crafting today, I guess. And so I'm going to put my little kind of foamy mouse pad just so that I have something for my stamp to bite into a little bit. Again, I don't want to be doing chest compressions, but I do want it to have a really good adhesion because I'm not using stamp platform. So I only have one, well, I was going to say I only have one chance. I have multiple chances to get this right. I can turn it over and re-stamp it or cut another piece of paper. Ideally, I would like to get it done on the first try. Okay. So, anytime that I am stamping super crisp images, so when I'm using for sentiments, or anytime I'm using Lavinia and I want all of the fine details to come out from the stamps, because there's so many fine details in these stamps, I am going to be using a VersaFine Clair, which is a pigment-based ink, but it has a bit of an oil or a glycerin in it that helps it kind of cling to the stamp. So I want to make sure that my stamp is really nicely inked up first and foremost. Get nice and shiny. Just got a spludgy there, so let's wipe that off. Go. All right, I'm just going to take a look and have a look at it. I can see the shine from all of my ink reflected back at me, so that likely means that I've got a good amount of ink. Now, I want to come in, and I do want to leave a bit of a base here. I'm going to come off just a bit, off to the side, and put it down. And I'm just going to kind of walk my fingers up and down the stamp, or well, actually on my block here, just kind of walking up and down a little bit, giving it good time for the friction. So pigment-based inks. So this is Versafine Clair in Nocturne. So this is the black ink. And it's a really nice, deep, rich black, which is nice. But because it is a pigment-based ink, it does not absorb into the paper. You'll often hear people say, oh, give it some time for it to absorb into the paper. It doesn't absorb into the paper. Pigment inks sit on top of the paper. So you want to give it enough time and just enough friction for the ink to almost like rub off of your stamp onto the paper, to transfer onto the paper. It's not going to absorb and sink in. A dye-based ink does that. It saturates your paper. Pigment-based inks sit on top of the paper. They also take a longer time to dry. Oh, but look at you get this beautiful image. Okay, so now I'm just going to take my, this is just a microfiber cloth, and I'm going to give this a good wipe down, get all of the ink off, which I have, which has just come off nicely, and I'm just going to put that to the side. I'm going to make you guys wait while I try and do that. Look at, I've got a really beautiful, crisp image. Now, what I'm going to do is pull out my little move that out of the way. And I'm going to take this. Now, this is, again, I said it was pigment-based ink, so it takes a very long time to dry. So if I were to start working on this, I could actually end up smudging it. So what I want to do is I'm going to take this and I'm just going to give it a quick blot so that I can begin to work. Yeah, there's just a faint outline there of the black. Okay. So that is basically everything that I need to do with the big stamp. Now we're going to start adding details. Okay. And in order to do that, what I want to do is I'm going to do a bit of watercoloring. I'm going to do watercoloring first. I'm going to add the base first. Let's do the watercoloring first because it'll give it time to dry. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got a fairly fine brushed paintbrush. Okay, and to watercolor, you can use whatever you've got. If you've got some Crayola paints at home, spray some water in them. You can use that. You can use dye-based inks. You can use re-inkers, watercolor pencils. I've got some Zig Clean Clear water brush pens. Uh, Sky's the limit, realistically, in terms of what you can use for watercoloring, basically. Okay. So, but what I'm going to use, because I have them, because of course I'm extra and I have the whole set, I am going to use my Lavinia Elements dye-based inks. Okay, so these are dye-based, which means they're water-based. So I can mix these with water. And they will move and just become like a watercolor. Sorry, I'm just going to put away a few things here to create some space for myself on the sides. Yeah. Okay, so the first thing that I want to color is I'm going to color my roof. The two colors, two or three colors actually, that I'm going to use for the roof are going to be, okay, so I've got Sahara, Sundance, and Russet Orange. Now, I'm going to take each one of these, and so some of you have seen where I will do the mixing in my, like I'll just kind of give a little squeeze, a light squeeze to the cap of, or the topper of my ink pad, and pull this off, and then you can see here where I have used this as a palette. So that's what I do if I'm just doing like small little areas like this. But because this is going to be a fairly large area, what I actually am going to do is take this and I'm going to add quite a bit. Well, I'm going to add a good portion of ink onto my craft mat. Okay. Sundance is going to be my main base color because it's going to shadow it all. Because this is, I'm thinking of this as a thatched roof, basically. So it should look like straw. That's the intent. Okay. And then I've got the Sahara, which is a slightly darker yellow. So it'll kind of have like a bit of a brown tone to it. So this will be some of my highlights and shadows. And I'm also going to do just a tiny bit of the orange. So now I'm just going to add just a little bit of that and just a tiny bit of the russet orange here. Okay. It's actually more than what I need, but that's okay. So now, again, because you all know that I'm a fairly lazy crafter, so I've just got out my distress sprayer and I'm just going to take it and I'm going to add a little bit of water here, a little bit of water here, and a little bit of water here. And I might get a little bit more water here. Okay. So now I'm just going to take my paintbrush and I'm going to mix this water into my ink. And then I'm going to come in and I'm just going to start to paint in my color. I want it to be a little bit deeper than that. So I'm going to paint in my color. There we go. That's better. And I'm not too concerned about going over the kind of the ribbon because eventually I'm going to go back in with some mica pearl colors kind of thing. Uh, and that's where I'm going to add in my Christmas lights, make it look Christmassy. Welcome to our home for Christmas. Actually, let's and so we're just adding in. So you can see that I'm still continuing to move the color, move some of the water back into the color, moving it around and just adding it. I could have used, because this is such a large space at this point, I could have used a larger paintbrush, but this is working okay. And get this all the way down. Mhm. So you can see that I've my paint palette here is still there is still water in it, but it is kind of drying out. I've actually used quite a bit here, which is, what you want to do. You don't necessarily want to be wasting your ink if you don't need to, right? Okay, so I've got a decent, I think I've got basically a decent amount of color down. Okay. So it's definitely yellow, which is great. And you can see my paper is now starting to curl because I'm adding water to it, but that's okay. I don't mind. Now, the great thing with Lavinia is if you look here, so you can see here just underneath this ribbon part here where there's kind of like these little hash marks or whatever, that's where you can see there's meant to be a shadow or it's a darker tone. So the light isn't hitting it in the same place. Same as right here. Same as right here. Same as in these places here. So that's where I want to go in and I'm going to add in. So I'm going to pull in some of this and I'm going to pull in a little bit of my russet tone. And I actually do want to bring a little bit of that yellow in because we can kind of mix the colors together. And I'm just going to come in and just add a little bit of a darker tone here, right where it's telling me to add the darker tone. Now, when you're doing this, typically when you're doing watercoloring, okay, and you're adding shadows and things like that, and you want to add a tone onto a watercolor, you typically want to give it enough time to dry in between so that you can add in those colors. You want to dry each layer, but I'm not going to take that time to do that today. Just kind of going to continue on and we'll see where we end up. Sometimes I like to pull out like when they get pretty close together here too. I'll draw that down a little bit, add that as a shadow. Some of these areas here where it's quite dark, I'll go in and add a little bit more. And then I can mix my paintbrush with the darker color that's on it into the yellow that I had and just draw that down a little bit so that it don't look like I've got a straight line where I just added that color. Moving that just a bit. There we go. Okay, now let's add in again. And moving this along a little quicker because I'm hoping this won't be a hugely long video. But I mean, no guarantees. I told you right from the beginning, could be a long video. There's a lot of detailing that happens with Lavinia stamps, which is part of what I love about them. It's often what I'll take when I go on a crop because I know I can pack just very minimal supplies, but can be fully engaged for the whole weekend, which is really nice. Now, you can see what I was talking about here. I don't know if you guys can see it. We can see right here where there's kind of that harsh edge where the darker brown went down. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go up into my yellow again. I've still got the brown on my brush, but I'm going to mix it in with the yellow so that I can pull some of that down so that that isn't such a harsh delineation of color there. Now I'm going to pull in just a skosh of the orange, not a lot. But again, the orange will also add in some of, because it's a darker tone, right? So it's going to add in. So the same in that the Sahara was the darker tone. It's going to help me add that little bit of shading. I went too much because I didn't want it to look pumpkiny or anything like that, but I do want that added shade to my yellow. So I think hopefully my plan is to post this as a bonus for my Christmas in July. So what did you guys think about the cards that I did? I know the last video was pretty long, but it was really fun. I just couldn't pass up all of those really great techniques. I just thought they were so pretty and so fun. And I'd been waiting for a while to bring them in. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Are you guys ones that like to start doing your Christmas cards like this early, getting a jump on it? Or well, I mean, maybe you're not like me and give away like 100 cards plus the ones that you make for family for them to give away and blah blah blah. Maybe you're not crazy like me. I don't recommend it. Okay. So I don't know if you guys can see, but you can see here where the brown, like kind of that darker yellow and the orange have brought in that highlight. There's another one there, a little bit more there. Like it looks like that ribbon is kind of just popping off there a little bit. So that's how we begin to add a little bit of depth and dimension to this. So while I've got this darker orange out here, I'm actually just going to add in a bit of coloring here on the steps. I think maybe I'll do this with the door. I want to add in some of that brown. I can come in with some brown later and just add that in. But seeing as how I've got it here, let's do it. All right. So I'm just going to move this to the side. I'm going to clean this up. Saying a baby wipe. Okay, and then as you all know, I don't clean my brushes super well. I just kind of spritz some water on my palette here or on my glass mat. Good enough, wipe it off, and whoop, clean. There we go. Again, we're looking to kind of move things along. We don't need to have it be all woo woo. Okay, so that's pretty much the roof done. Now what I want to do is I want to add some color into the rocks and then around the door and into the stone part of the cottage here. So the colors that I'm going to do for that are going to be Bermuda, some truffle, maybe some henna, green sleeves, maybe in the olive. Gonna be a bunch of different colors, but I don't want to do, now if I recall correctly, I'm gonna do the Bermuda, and I don't need a ton on here because a little for these is gonna go quite a ways. I'm gonna need some truffle for the door to add in some highlight for that. We'll need some graphite for the rocks. So the graphite is kind of the darker grayish black color in the Lavinia line. Let's do some green sleeves because it's kind of a mossy color, which is kind of fun. A little bit of olive. and henna. Okay, so there's quite a few colors down here, which is fine because some of these can even be mixed and matched, like adding to the palette and whatever, right? So we're gonna do spritz, 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 spritz. All right. So the first one that I want to do is I'm going to pull in and I'm going to do this Bermuda because it's kind of a stormy blue green. So that's the base of what I want to do for the cottage. So it's not quite like a dark gray, but I do like that it's still a very grayish blue. So it's kind of, yeah, like I said, stormy blue without being too rock, right? I don't even know if that made sense. But anyway, I'm looking for it to not be super gray entirely. Okay. So you can see how nice that tone is, particularly with the yellows, right? So I like that. Let's do now, and I don't necessarily need to clean off my brush because I don't mind actually bringing in some of that tone to this. So now I'm just going to go in and I'm going to add in a little bit of color on some of the rocks. So I'm adding in this green. It's going to make it look a little mossy on some of the rocks. And then I'm going to come in with a darker green and some shading on the moss here. Okay. Actually, we could do a couple of the darker, just darker green. That. There. And there could be the darker green. Sure, what the heck. Alrighty, now I want to do kind of like this purpley. Ooh, I just mixed in the green with the purpley red. And could be interesting, right? Oh yeah, makes a great, nice little greeny brown. Ooh, not a color you necessarily want in your home, but it does make for a nice rock kind of color, right? And it takes the reds and the browns and just kind of moves them a bit. With that. There. Do you want to add some tones here? Let's see if we can get some of this darker color onto the green. So I don't know how much you can actually see on here in terms of the details, but there is some fine bricks, couple that you can see on the stamp that are part of the building. So I'm just adding some shading. So I'm adding it right on top of the Bermuda color that I had done previously. And let's knock my brush a bit here. Come in. So I'm going to let most of that give it a bit of dry time here. And I want to come in and I'm going to add in some shading to my door in the areas where it's darker here. Right? So I actually want to make these quite dark. Like that. Alrighty. Let's see if we can get lighten that brown a little bit. So I don't know. Yeah, you can see this. So I had done quite dark in order to get kind of the stripes, but now I want to add in like I want to take quite a bit of the brown out. So I'm just kind of doing where the water puddle was here because now I want to go in and I'm just going to kind of blend this with the orange that was underneath. so that it's again, so it's not like harsh, like it's like, oh my goodness, who was living there? You can see that. So it helps bring those two colors together just a little bit more, which is good. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so I'm happy with the door, but let's do, we can do another one of these guys here. That looks pretty much the same as the other one, doesn't it? Now I'm going to bring in and I'm going to do a little bit of the graphite. And I want to come in, so there's some really fine, I'm gonna need a little bit darker than that. So there's like kind of like a circle of stones that goes around the door that I want to create any deeper, kind of this deeper grayish black color. I want it to look, again, to kind of highlight that door. And in fact, I might even come back in and put like some perfect pearls or something like that over it too, just to kind of really make it pop, make it pop, make it pop. Okay, all right. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to do a couple of really nice dark stones here. Darker stones, anyways. Okay, and then for the rocks that are still left exposed here, I'm going to come in with a slightly kind of a lighter grayish. I'm adding some of the water to my brush, pulling out my palette a little bit. There we go. Not bad, hey? I'm pretty happy with that, actually. So let's move this to the side and grab our baby wipe. I'm going to go and clean the brush. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. There we go. Dry the brush, wipe up. Oh, and I've got a little bit of brown still there. There we go. Okay, so I think that's going to be it pretty much for the watercoloring. Now, so I'm going to move my elements out of the way theoretically here. And these two as well. Yeah, I wanted a darker. Let's go in with the Bermuda and maybe the graphite. Okay, so I'm looking to have a little bit more definition on just a couple of the uh, bricks here. So what I'm going to do is just go directly from my ink pad. So I'm just rubbing my paintbrush on top, and I'm just going to come in and just paint in a couple of these here just to make them a little, so that they stand out from the background color a little bit more. Mhm. Okay, so that was the Bermuda. Now I'll hold that up and you guys can see if you can see the difference. You can, oops, sorry guys, running into my drink there. You can see here, these darker bricks right there. That's where I added the a little bit of this guy here. Now I'm gonna have to clean up my brush again here, because that will have been quite a bit of ink that I added. Yeah, look, if you can see how much absorbed into my brush just from doing that, right? So now I'm going to do the same with the graphite. Tap off just a little bit in there. And so now with the graphite, I'm just going to come in and just do a couple, like I said, just a couple of the stones in the darker color. I think I want to do that one slightly darker. Oh, yeah, cool. All right. And Let's see. Spludge, spludge, spludge. And that should be clean enough till next time. Here we go. All right. Oh, remember there was a lot of ink left on that. Let's wipe that up off of the white desk before it stains. There we go. All right. Okay. So here's where we're at now. So now you're probably thinking, okay, well, now what do you need to do? So my next stage of what I want to do is I want to put in a little bit of grounding. So on this particular card, I actually used a stamp to do it. So I did the house because it's a smaller house. So I did it much higher up. And then there's a set of a stone stamp that goes this way, and then you can turn it upside down. And then it's so this is the same stamp, just turned upside down, and it gives this really cool pathway which grounds your image. So but now for this we need to ground this image. So there are some rocks here, but currently it looks like it's just kind of floating in air, right? So we can't, well, I mean, we could keep it like that, but typically we don't want to. That's not going to be great. Now, foolishly, I did not pull out my masks. I actually have some masks for working with Lavinia to give grounding and things like that. So, because I was foolish and did not pull that out, I'm just going to quickly create one. So, I kind of like how it goes kind of in this direction. So, I'm just going to take a piece of, yeah, this is just a piece of cardstock. So, you can do it one of two ways. You can keep a nice straight edge, you could cut an edge. You can also, if you want, just take your paper and kind of give it a bit of a tear within this vein like this. I don't want it to be too hilly in too many spots because we need it to fit along where the rocks are there. Okay, so we've got, it's too much there. So let's pull this out. Let's see here. Oh, much better. You can see, you can still see a bit of the bottom of it, but it's going to go across and it's kind of got some waviness and whatnot to it, which is what you're going to want. Now, for this, I like to use, for now, we will be using pigment-based inks. So I'm going to pull out my pigment-based ink sponges. But I gotta find the right colors because I'm looking for some specifics. So that's the lighter color blue. Pretty sure that's purple. Yep. So these are just these are just makeup sponges that I got from the dollar store. It's a pink. Yeah. Okay. And so I've got a blue. Yeah. Okay. So I like to use, I just use sponges, makeup sponges that I get from the dollar store. You can buy crafty ones, but you don't need to. These work just as well. You can also use sponge daubers or blending brushes, but I tend to use these because they give me a very nice blend to it kind of thing. So I like to use that. So I am going to start with, so I've got two colors here. I've got Arctic and Bali blue. So and you can see, so this is kind of a very light blue to begin with. So it should be good for kind of a snowy base. Because again, this is going to be winter. I don't need it to be super saturated because obviously like I've colored the stones and things like that. So there is going to be some color that is going to be showing through, but I do want to give it a base, basically. Okay, so now I'm going to take my blending sponge, my makeup sponge, and I'm going to load it with some ink. Then I'm going to start. So I've kind of chosen where do I want this here. I've created an edge. I'm holding my mask here in my left hand because I'm right-handed. So I'm going to take this and you're going to start on the mask and you're going to drag down. Okay, like this. And you want to start softly because you can always add more color. It's very difficult to take away color. Okay. Just turn the sponge, kind of give it a looky loo. I'm dragging that color down. Let's pick that up. All right. So that's not bad, but you can see, let's see if you can see here. So there's a couple of areas here where you can see that I didn't quite get to the edge. So my paper was torn. So it looks like it's like the hill has kind of cut off underneath it. So that works okay for me because what I want to do is actually add a little bit of depth. So I'm just actually going to turn this at a slight angle and pull in and build up over top of that, like that. So you can see there where it's a slightly darker, but we've still got the base. And I can actually add just a skosh of color in here where it missed. Didn't want any white showing. Dragging that along across. And then I've got the same thing on the go over on this end. So now I'm going to choose a different angle for my mask. And I'm going to do the exact same thing, loading up my brush a little bit, starting on the mask, pulling off. And I'm actually going to continue along a little bit here so that it can make it look like there's a different depth. See? So now it looks like I've got another hill here, a little bit of dimension, another snowdrift. Perhaps somebody was actually shoveling, could have been. And we can do the same thing here. Okay. So we've built that up right there. So the other thing that I want to do though is I want to come in from beside because I want it to look like there's some hills almost behind the cottage here. So what I want to do is I'm going to kind of work it at right here. I don't want to go onto the cottage too much or onto the rocks, but I do want to create what looks like rolling hills behind it, kind of thing. Ish, if you're catching my drift there. There we go. Okay. Hold that up so you guys can see. Okay. You see how that has worked out there? So it kind of looks like land, sitting on some land, looks like land. That's kind of what we want. Now I do want to darken this piece up here, just underneath the door a little bit. So I'm going to try and find an angle that will work here. That's going to work. And I'm just going to come in with my sponge, darken that up a bit. Adding a little bit more ink. There we go. Yeah, that works good for me. Okay, now what I could do as well is if I wanted is I could create a mask for going up behind it. I don't know that I need to do that because I'm going to come in with some snowflakes and a few other things like that. So I think that's good for that part. But while I'm doing that, I'm actually going to edge it. So let's edge. Again, I like to use my blenders for this. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just coming in a circular motion and I'm just adding some color. It's actually truthfully easier to do this on a slick surface, not on the paper. So I'm going to move my paper to the side for a moment. Load up. And I'm going to pull that color into the sky, up and down, moving it in here. I'm going to come in with a second color too, so it doesn't have to be super perfect. I'm also going to be coming in with some snowflakes in a bit. So despite, I mean, this is quite shocking when you look at the color of how dark it is here, right? Like, when you look compared to the front of the case, it looks like it should be a much lighter blue, right? So that's why it's really important to swatch your colors so you know what you're working with. You won't have any surprises. I'll often, while I've got my palette out like I'll often just to check because I don't often, usually when I'm traveling, I forget to bring my swatches with me, but I can stamp it off onto the pad so I can like, oh, okay, is that the one that I want to use? What about maybe it's this color I want to use instead? Or maybe it's the other color. Like, do I want to use the warm breeze? Which one do I want to use? Right. So that's kind of handy to do. Okay. Now you can see where I've got some circles from my blending brush here. So what I'm going to do with this, because it's a fairly new one, so it's not been smoothed out. So I'm going to pull that in a little bit to kind of make it look a bit like a stormy sky. So again, see, there's no wrong thing. So you would think, oh, Corinne, you've messed up on your blending. Nope, we're going to make that look more like a stormy sky. No problemo. Why worry? It's just paper and ink. Always a fix. Always a fix. Okay, I'm actually really quite happy with that. I think that's pretty cool. What do you guys think? Looks very stormy. So now what I want to do, so I poured in the basis of the blue. Now I'm going to bring in, this is the Bali blue. So it's a slightly deeper, it's kind of a turquoisey color. This one, I'm going to come in and again, I just kind of want to catch the edges with this to deepen the tones. So I brought the Arctic blue in to kind of create the skyline. Now this color here is kind of going to frame my card basically. So the reason why we do this is because it brings your attention, it creates like a focal point or a spotlight on your card. And so you can just see here. So you can see where I've caught the edge here versus here. That's all I'm doing. Let me see if I bring that up. All I'm doing is catching the edge with this kind of more turquoisey color, just to bring in the turquoise color just a little bit. Mhm. And then at the edges, I'm going to bring this in to, again, to kind of create like almost like an oval or almost like a shutter, like on a camera. It's a place of focus, right? So I'm just deepening up my color on the corners. There we go. Okay. That was with the Bali blue. The last one that I'm going to bring in is going to be the warm breeze. And this is so you can see this is the lighter color of this. This was one of the first colors that they came out with. These are some that they added last year. And you know, I had to have it. I mean, this is actually truthfully one of my favorite colors. So now all I want to do with this one, as you can see how much darker that is. All I'm doing with this one is I just want to kiss those corners. The nice thing about using the sponges, though, is that they deposit a ton of color versus a blending brush. Now, blending brushes are excellent if you're not great at blending, because you don't get a huge deposit of color. They're often easier to fix if you feel like you've made a mistake. Okay. Yeah. Nice. Okay. So I'm going to move these off to the edge here, off to the side. Clean up my mat. Okay, okay. So let's do that part. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is I'm going to add my sentiment and the snowflakes. So in order to do that, I'm going to pull in my mat again, or my palette, whatever you want to call it here. Where did I put them? I had them here and I moved them. It shows, but did anybody see where I stuck the stamps that I was going to use? They're there. Okay, they're under my mat, under my cloth. Okay, so the stamp that I want to use for did I keep out the fudge? I did not. Okay, well, I guess I'm going to use this deeper blue then. Okay, so what the greeting that I want to use, because I think it fits really well, especially because it is uh it's a house. So I used the greeting that I used was Merry Christmas from our home to yours. Now you can see how long the from our home to yours is, so it doesn't really fit in here. So I did stamp surgery and I cut it from our home, so Merry Christmas from our home to yours, so that I could fit it, Merry Christmas, right there, from our home to yours. Ta-da! Okay. Didn't hurt the stamp. Stamp works great. It's not a problem. It's just, you just have to make sure that you've got it in the right spot. You can put it back together. It's not a problem. You can't put it back together, but you can continue to keep it on your acetate or whatever. It would still, like, I can still put this if I was doing on a different card. I can still put this together. No problem. It's only a problem if, actually, I kind of need to do it this way. I'm going to have to do this a little closer, guys. Sorry, because I gotta make sure this measures up. Okay, so I like this. Merry Christmas. Yeah, so you can do this with your own stamps if you have a sentiment that is just too long. It just doesn't quite fit. Just make sure I've got this all going correctly. Merry Christmas from our home. I like to have it a little to the edge there. So Merry Christmas from our home to yours. Okay, yeah, pick up my block and I'm gonna center it, pick it up. Okay, there we go. Now, before I go and stamp this onto my card, I'm gonna check and make sure that this is actually gonna work out pretty good, pretty well, pretty good. That's not good English, but pretty well. So I'm gonna stamp it onto my mat here, which is also a nice benefit of having some paper handy. Okay, so ba-da-ba-da. There we go. Merry Christmas from our home to yours. So I think that color of blue is actually going to be really quite nice. It's not as harsh as a black. I do have black out, but I think that this would be, ooh, actually seems how I edged with the Bali or the warm breeze. Let's see what it looks like with the warm breeze. Do I like it better? I might like it better. Who knows? Oh, you know what? I do. I like it better with the warm breeze. Another benefit of testing things out before you go and stamp it down. And I'm hoping my head doesn't get in your way, guys, but I need to kind of get over top of this so I can see. Merry Christmas from our home to yours. 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. And get out. Oh, yeah, nice. I'm happy with that. It's not like in your face. I'm just giving that a little bit of a wipe. And I'm going to put this back on my acetate so that I don't misplace it, especially because that one stamp has been cut in half, right? So from our home to yours. But you can see how much better that fits onto my card, right? So that's a really good reason to, well, some people call it stamp surgery, whatever you want to call it, but that's a good reason to go ahead and give it a trim if you need to. If it's something's not quite working, make your stamps work for you. That's the whole point of them, right? Is so that you have them so that you can utilize them. Okay, the next thing that I want to do, because we're almost done with the stamping part. So I've got my sentiment on there, looks good. Let's give it a bit of a blot. Okay, perfect. And now I'm going to come in and I'm going to do the snowflakes. So the snowflakes are going to be, so I've got 3 snowflakes and I'm going to do 2, probably 2 of each, but let's check out what colors. So I previously had done the baby pink. So I have to check and make sure that that will actually show up. Yes, it will. So I've got baby pink. I think I did very Perry, just kind of this, yep. Might have done lilac blue. That's a much darker, it's much darker color than what you would think it is there. So let's check the lilac bloom. Is it the lilac I did? Yeah, it was lilac bloom. And I think, oh, broke a nail. Don't know how I did that. And I think I did the Arctic blue again, which I think should still show up well enough on there. Yeah. Okay. So these are the three colors that I'm going to stamp out my snowflakes into. Okay. So I've got this first one here, and I'm going to go with the purple first. So this is, again, this is going to be lilac bloom. Hit that right about. So what's really great is to kind of take it just a bit off of your paper so that it looks like it's falling into the scene, coming in from the scene. Okay, here we go. One. And let's do two. Come in with the purple all the way down here. Yeah, kind of right in around there. Go, go. And white. Done with the lilac blue. Run away. We'll come on with the next one, which is going to be this one. And these are going to be the blue color. So this is the Arctic blue, I think I said. Okay. And getting around here. Perfect. This right in there. Lifting. Almost dropped it actually on there, but fortunately enough, there's enough going on up there that it's okay. And I've got just enough room now to do one in the pink. Baby pink. Baby pink? Yeah, baby pink. Okay. And now for these, I mean, obviously these are not, the pink and the purple and the whatever. They're not typically traditional Christmas colors. And that's okay. I'm gonna have enough, but I wanted something that was gonna stand out from what I was doing here, right? Here. Coming in. There we go. There we go. Pretty happy with that. Okay, give this a wipe. Okay, and I'm done with my stamp block, and I'm going to put my stamp back in here and in the packaging because, you know, things get lost if you don't. These ones, I spent a lot of time doing the laminating and putting all of my stamps, most of my Lavinia things onto packaging like this. And then I went through a real buying frenzy. And I haven't gotten around to cleaning up the things that I have done for those. So now, because these are pigment-based inks, and I want to get on with the next technique or the next part of it, I'm going to give it a blot. So I'm going to put it in between two papers here and just kind of give it a bit of a wipe so that I don't end up smudging anything, right? Okay. So what I learned, now you can do two things. So on this particular one, I'm probably just going to leave it. I don't think I'm going to do the glaze because I'm not sure how well my glue pen will stick to the glaze if I do a glaze over this. But you'll notice on, for example, this one here, when I put the snow on, it's because it's a water-based product, it actually picked up some of the color that was underneath. So I kind of have a greeny snow, which is okay with me. I don't mind that. I think it looks like, oh, there's some greenery underneath that. This picked up a little bit of the gray here. Just looks like snow, which is totally fine. So I don't know if you guys can see the texture. See, there you go. This is the best snow. So I'm going to show you how to do this. If you didn't want your watercolor like your snow or something like that, you were putting something on top and you didn't want it pulling the color from your card, the best way to do that is you can use distress glaze. So you would take this, so this is a glaze. So it's a glazed product. So actually, what I'll do here is I'll kind of do it on just on this part, not on here, because I'm again, I'm going to be using that part. So I'm going to pull out the clean one because I don't want any transfer because I have a very dirty one that I was doing with other products. Show you what happened here. So this is kind of like it's a glaze basically. And so it pulled up some of the color as I was sealing it. So what this does is it is theoretically supposed to help seal your work, right? So it's really good for using with oxides and things like that. So all I'm going to do is just kind of come in, get a bit of a buff like that. When you're using distress glaze or this over top of distress oxides, kind of wakes everything up, makes it look like woo, and kind of gives it a bit of a shine. But it's also really good because again, distress products using distress ink or distress oxides or sprays or whatever, if you go to spray them with water, if you were to mail this, you would end up getting and it got wet or something like that, all of your color would leach into your envelope, into whatever, things like that. So it's a good thing to use when you're using dye-based inks or watercolors or anything like that. Now these parts here, this is all pigment based, so it's got an oil or a glycerin. It's fine. It's water soluble, or sorry, water safe. Okay. But this part here could pick up. Okay. So yeah, we're pretty much dry there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out little bits of magic here. And I'm going to pull out, here it is, my quickie glue pen, number one, is going to be the main one that I'm going to start with. So now we're going to zhuzh. Okay, guys? So get ready for zhuzhing. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to take my quickie glue pen, make sure it's running here. It doesn't look like there's anything coming out. Oh yeah, there is. Okay, good. It's a little sticky. All right, so now I'm just going to follow this line of the ribbon. Okay, so I'm going to follow the line of the ribbon. Get nice and thick. Making sure that I'm getting a really good coverage too, because this is going to be, this is what my Christmas lights will be hanging off of. So I want to make sure this is going to be this really wonderful, nice, thick gold. And I want to cover up the paint that because I painted right through the thing, right? So I want to make sure that that's not going to be too visible. I'd prefer it to not be. All right. Let's see, we got good coverage there. Okay, so I'm going to give that a second to get tacky, but I also want to come in and I'm going to cover the door here. There's where the door hinge is. So there's the door hinge, and then there's the door knob. Okay, and I think cover that. Now, for the doorknob and hinge, I'm going to be using the Mica Minerals metallic bronze from Lavinia. Oops. Okay, let's get that in there. So you can see it's got these beautiful glitters in it. Like, hello, have you met me? You know I'm loving the glitter. So I'm just going to pick up just a little bit onto my brush. I like to tap it off into the lid because, sometimes once this is out, can't get it back in, obviously. So now all I'm going to do is just take that little bit and I'm going to tap it and put it, that's going to be enough on there. I'm going to let that dry because it was still quite, the glue itself was quite damp under there. And I'm going to get my little brushy here because you can see I've still got quite a bit stuck in my, it's kind of not the best lighting for you guys there. Hey, there we go. Let's try that. Yeah, a little bit of glitter still in there. So I'm just going to take my cloth, give it a bit of a wipe. I'm not going to be able to get rid of it all because there is glue on it, but I'm going to do that. Now I'm going to pull out my Mica Minerals Crystal Gold from Lavinia. All right, so again, you can see this beautiful gold, which, really cracks me up because I'm not even a gold person, but this is pretty fantastic. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, what's on my paintbrush here. This is actually just an eyeshadow brush. Just want a kind of a fluffy brush. And I'm going to tap it in and I'm going to cover every place that I put down uh, my line of glue from my quickie glue pen. Simply put it in the lid there. Now I did one of these for, I think it was just a congratulations on your new home. I think I did one of these. And I actually followed a couple of these lines here with the gold with my quickie glue pen in the shadows here and just did that with the gold. And oh my goodness, it looked like the sun was setting on it. It was like so bright and sparkly. Okay, I'm just going to take this off to the side here and give it a bit of a knock. And I get a lot of the glitter off, or all of it, but yeah, I'm going to kind of let it sit. So where the mica was, so it's still going to be any place that wasn't quite dry, it's going to be hanging on there for a bit. So it will stick in those areas. So you can see. You guys catch that glitter? Glitter. Yeah. So loving that. Loving it, loving it, loving it. Now, I'm also going to take my white jelly roll here. Make sure it's working. Yep, it's working. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to add a few little highlights. Again, this is where kind of the light would probably hit some of these stones, or I'm guesstimating this is where the light would hit. And I'm just coming in and just adding just a couple of dots. If I want some really strong highlights, I'll go in and like do like a lot of like a whole line of white and then kind of draw it up like that. Right here. A little bit there, a little bit there. And all I'm doing here is just adding in a little bit of that white just to show, just to brighten it up a little bit in those areas where the sun might hit. Okay, there's not going to be a ton of it here because there's quite, as you can see, there's quite an overhang. But we can bring in a little bit of white around the door, lighten that up a little bit. We want this to feel welcoming, right? All right. Okay. Now, now the fun part, or the, depending on how you think about it, could be quite monotonous part. It's really up to you. So what I'm taking now is if you've got liquid pearls, you know, a lot of people have these left from years ago. Again, shop your stash. I'm going to be using, because I don't have a red, oddly enough, I don't know how come I don't have a red, or you can use stickles, whatever you've got, use what you've got. So now I'm going to create a pattern. I'm gonna check and make sure this is gonna flow well enough. Okay, good. Okay, so now what you're gonna do, or what I'm gonna do, is I'm gonna go along where my gold line is here, and I'm gonna squeeze and draw down. Okay, and that's gonna give me the look of a light bulb, right, hanging off of this. So I'm gonna do red, yellow, blue. I don't think I'll be able to fit the green on there. So green. And then I'm going to go red. You guys are going to be so tired of listening to me do this by the time the video's over. Red, and drawing it down, red, yellow, blue, green. So we can go red, and drawing it down, yellow, blue, green, red, yellow, blue, green, yellow, blue, green, red. So essentially, I'm just counting at yellow, blue, green, red. I'm counting out and spacing out so that I have enough room to add the other three colors. I'm just going to go in and make all of my Christmas lights. So yellow, blue, green, red, pull down, yellow, blue, green, red. Zip, blue, green, red. Blue, green. Now, it's also a really good idea if it's been a while since you've used your liquid pearls or your Nouveau drops, red, yellow, blue, green, and red, to warm them up. So, ladies, you can put them in your bra, in your armpit, between your legs, something like that. It's a good idea to warm them up so that they have a more, it helps to warm up and thin out some of the polymers and things like that are in them. Red, yellow, green, blue, red, yellow, green, blue, red, yellow, green, blue, green, blue, red, mm, green, blue, red. So now I'm just going to follow the roof line. So I've come off of the garland or the light strand, whatever. Red, yellow, green, blue, red. And so I'm just going to follow the roof line. Yellow, blue, red, yellow, green, blue, red. Yellow, green, blue, red. There we go. Okay, so that's it for the red. Now I was saying that I would do yellow next. So seeing as how I've kind of been doing that, I'm going to come in. So now that I've got the original one down, now I'm going to go in and right next to the red on every one of these, I'm going to do a little bead, exactly the same thing with the yellow. So I'm going to squeeze it out, maybe, and draw it down. I need to have a plug. It's always handy when you're dealing with stickles, etc., to have a pin available because you just never know when you're running into something that's been jammed up in there, especially if you don't use them all the time. It's been a while since you've used them. Give it a good swirly durly in there because, nothing like trying to squeeze the life out of you. I I used to use stickles a lot when I was crafting, especially when I'm scrapbooking. I use stickles a lot more when I'm scrapbooking than I do when I'm card making. But I was trying to use this uh, stickle. It was a Michael's brand, so it was one of the bigger bottles, and I was squeezing it so hard. My friend was watching me because I was so frustrated because it was glitter or whatever was stuck in it, and I was squeezing it so hard. Did you know that these tops come off? I didn't know that. So I had it like this, and I had squeezed it so hard that it shot up because this thing let go and it shot up to the ceiling. Oh yeah. And watch where you're putting your hands because you've got wet Nouveau drops or stickles or whatever you've got here. So just watch where you're putting your hands down because they'll just ruin all of your good hard work here. But funniest damn thing, she said just watching my face was the funniest thing. Because I was so shocked. I had no idea that it would let go. I was just trying to get the air hole or the blockage out of it. Yeah, no, I just shot it up and it was there for years. It was like a glitter, like a gold, um, kind of like a clear gold, a clear with gold glitter in it, slightly tinted, but not much. But for the rest of the weekend, I had to move my chair because it would kept dripping down because of course it often can take stickles or Nouveau drops and things like that quite a while to dry, right? And so what was probably the equivalent, so it was a bigger bottle, it was about this size, maybe even a little bigger, but it was the equivalent of this much fell down. Like this is how much shot up there and most of it fell and continued to fall. over the weekend, which was good because it ended up being not a lot. But yeah, fortunately enough, it was a um, it was a kind of like a rec center, so that things happen, and it was an older ceiling and things like that. So it wasn't wasn't the end of the world. But oh my God, it was like we just I almost peed my pants. I was laughing. And mostly, I think it was just because I was laughing because my friend had seen like my face as it happened. And it just was one of those things. And, you know, kind of you had to be there, but it was also like, wow, I can't believe that just happened. Okay, so now again, I'm coming in. So I'm coming in with the green onto the sides. It's going next to all of the yellows because I've already got this space. You guys heard me. Red, yellow, green, blue, red, yellow, green, blue. So now all I'm doing is going in and fitting it next to the yellows. So squeezing out and pulling down, squeezing out, pulling down, squeezing a bit out and pulling it down. Yeah. Have you guys ever had something like that happen? It was quite the crafting mishap. I felt really bad about it. And every time we went back to that place, kind of would always look up and there was my handiwork. Ooh, I'm gonna have to put a really big squidgy of a blue in there, but that's okay. All right. And coming in with the last color, the blue. So I'm gonna do a test off to the side here. Oop, she got a blockage. So rather than trying to fight my way with it, let's clear the blockage a little bit, see if we can. Get that a wipe. And can we get a nice smooth. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So I don't have enough room here, so we can do a blue here. And I think I can get a blue there. There we go. And get a blue and in here. And green. So this one should be the red right here. So now I'm just pretty much going in and filling in with the blue wherever there is a space now. Because this is the last of the four colors that I was going to use, right? Oh, there's my blockage comes back. That's always nice. So now, based on the lesson that I learned from that, is whenever I end up with a blockage, I more often than not will at least now try to remove it. Because yeah, like use a pin or something like that. Because yeah, that was pretty unbelievable, and I felt pretty bad actually. So the lady who was running the crop was like, "Don't worry about it. It's an old building. It's not the end of the world." But still, it's not always what you want to be doing. See, now clearly I was busy talking to you guys because there's a huge gap in here. So I'm gonna have to try and make pretty big blue. See, another one right here. I overcounted. Sometimes counting to four is not as easy as you would like it to be, is what I would say. Okay. And this go here. Whoop. I just thought this was so cool to add this on and just have it be like so festive, kind of like, fairy exterior illuminations. All right. I'm pretty happy with that. What do you think, guys? Look how cute that is. So cute. So cute. So cute. Okay. So the next thing that I want to do is I'm going to add a little bit of splatter. If you don't like to add splatter, you don't need to do this, but I do want to have a little bit of snowfall. Okay. So I'm going to actually put on snow, but I also want to have a little bit of snowfall here. So I'm just going to take an acrylic pen or sorry, an acrylic paint pen. It's basically what this is. And I'm just going to take my, I've got a really thick paintbrush here, and I'm just going to go in and give it a few taps. I'm gonna get too carried away. I could get carried away, but okay. You guys can see. Yeah, there you can. You can see the little snow there and there. So there's tiny little flakes kind of all over. And because it's an acrylic paint, it kind of balls up, which is kind of cool. So it gives, again, it's another little bit of dimension. So what I want to try and do is I don't want to squish that. So I'm going to try to not put my fingers in it because that's fairly typical. Okay, now for the piece de resistance, where did I put it? Here we go. Okay, this is going to be this is the best thing for snow that I have found. There is one other product that I like for using for snow, and it is this. It is the snow marker by Uchida, by Marvi Uchida. It's a snow marker. So basically what you do is shake it up, and similar to the paint pen, you kind of push it in kind of thing, and then you can draw it in, and then you take your heat tool and you heat it up and it puffs up, and then it gives you this matte looking snow, like a kind of a, it'll raise, almost looks flocked a little bit without the fuzziness. So that is the other snow product that I like. I had some that I really did not like. So I like to do this when I'm doing like landscapes. This is my favorite thing to do. Can also do like some stickles, like some glitter stickles, Nouveau drops. I've also got the white enamel in the crystal drops of Nouveau drops. Those are nice to give it kind of like a shine. Looks great for beards as well. This is the pearl, the crystal drops, so it's kind of like a pearlized white. Anyway, lots of different options. Those are my favorite, but this is the one that I like to use for landscapes because it gives you so much texture. Like look at the snow on there. Like it looks like snow that has built up on the roof line, right? Like somebody came and shoveled that right next to that. And this got caught in the cord for the lights. So this is my personal favorite. So this is eye zinc diamond. Eye zinc is and it's a glitter paint, and eye zinc by Aladdin. I find this on well, originally I actually found it from a store in the States called Scrapbooking Made Simple. But since then, because it can be quite expensive to ship, I just get it off of Amazon. And this is their well, it's white or clear, but it's actually called Macra. So this is a French product. Izinc or Aladdin is a French company. So this is their version of white. And this dries really quickly, or fairly quickly. Like it'll be dry to the touch for sure in about an hour, actually in about 20 minutes to a half an hour. And then, if I was going to put it in an envelope, I would probably wait 24 hours. I need to do that for the stickles and the Nouveau drops anyways. But I also have another one here too, that this is the copper or d'or chevre. I'm so not French. I can't pronounce those, but you can see the really pretty color. So when you're looking for it though, you want to make sure that you can see through the window. You want the diamond because it's a glitter basically. And this is the color that you want. Okay. If you're going to do this. I used it last year. Well, you guys probably didn't see that, but it was my favorite Christmas card that I made last year. It was this beautiful red truck, and I could layer the snow up on the hood and on the on the lights and on the top of the car. But I'm thinking specifically the grill. That's it. The bumper and the grill, and could kind of layer it up. And then also like where the wheels were as well, like where it was parked, I could do a layer there. So I really like that. So what I like to do is I will pull some out and I add it onto, now this, I just use this as my palette, but a palette knife, or a friend of mine uses her pin from her art glitter glue or whatever to kind of move it around. But because I'm going to be using quite a bit to start with here, I just take it and I kind of smooth it into place like this. So I want to kind of add in, and I'm going to bump it in here. So, and by doing this, it gives the texture of kind of like a fallen snow. So that's what you want is oopsie, don't get into the stickles there. There we go. I like to kind of layer it up. I like it to be thick in some places, thin in others. And by using the palette knife, and then I go in with the, like in the fine areas, I'll go in with the pin. But to start with, I like to kind of come in just like this and kind of shift it around, build it up a little bit if I feel the need to. I want to put a little bit under there, but I have to be very careful because I have some lights there, right? So I don't want too much and I don't want to get too close to my lights. Okay, like that. And then I can come right here, bump that over. I want it lining up a little bit with that hilly background that I have back there. And I want to make sure that it's not actually on the house because that's unlikely that you're going to have a ton of snow on the house, like on the walls, especially with such an overhang, right? Maybe I'm overthinking that. That's a possibility. Let me know if you think I'm overthinking that. I could be overthinking it, but it's what it ends up looking like that, just kind of, well, really makes me happy in the end. So I'm just putting in a little bit of like this layer of snow here along the ground, kind of where I did um, ground it. And I'm building it up in some areas, some in not, and just kind of smoothing it out so that there is that texture kind of all along the way there. And catch the edge. Now I've got a little bit here left on my palette, so I'm going to pull that off because I want to put a little bit on the stairs. I can get that off of there now. Of course not. Everybody's watching. Can't possibly do this. Okay. I have to use my fingers for that one, actually. Okay. Come on, get off. There you go. Okay. I lied. I said, there we go. That's not there we go. Yep, gonna have to get my nail in there. But then I got some nails on me today. All right, I just picked it up with my finger again. All right. Now, once you can get it down and kind of adhering to the paper, it will stay there and it will dry there, but it's a little sticking to me at the moment. There we go. That's better. Okay. Now I'm going to come in. Now I'm going to come in. I'm going to put a little bit on my palette here. Okay. And then I'm going to close this up because I don't want this to dry out because it's glitter. It's pretty, could be quite, it's pretty grainy. It's not very liquidy in there. Now I've had my first pouch, I think lasted me close to, I want to say 5 years. And I had other people that were using it at the same time as me. So, I wasn't the only one using it because I've often lent it out, no problem. Um, much like these videos, when I find a good product, I like to tell everybody, can't go wrong with this product. Try it out. So now I'm just going to kind of come in here and along where the garland is, or the cord and the gold, I want to come just above it, and I'm going to add some snow because that is kind of stopping snow from kind of melting. It's where it's going to build up a little bit. Catching a little bit here on this corner. My finger. Like that. The finger. And I'm kind of spreading it out into a couple of different areas. I want it to look like, because it's snow. It's not necessarily going to build up in exactly the same places. I mean, maybe if you're from Florida or something like that, you don't know that. But typically, snow does not tend to just, once it gets to the ground, it can be all quite level and level everything out. But as it's coming down, it's falling, where it's falling. So you don't necessarily know what's gonna look like it's got snow and what isn't. So let's catch this corner here. Squishing it to the page a little bit. So again, I'm still being a little careful because my splatters of snow, so the white acrylic pen is still wet, right? So I don't want to squish those beads of snow because they actually look like kind of like drops of snow. So I kind of want to keep that there. And here. Oh. Oh, so cute, so cute, so cute. Couple, this one here, a little bit more on the palette. So as you can see, it's very difficult to get this back in. So I tend to just squeeze out a little bit, or what I think I will actually use, because I can always go back for more, but this will not go back into my palette. So I try not to use waste too much of this because it, again, like I said, it is one of my very favorite books. I use it particularly in the winter a lot. Just adds so much fun to my projects, which I really like. So I kind of, I like that part about it. Okay, a little bit more along that edge there. Might be going a little crazy with the snow while you guys are sitting here watching, but it's just because I love it so much. It's kind of nice to play with the snow on here rather than having to shovel it here at home, which is the nice thing about, oh, fudge. Nice thing about doing Christmas in July. I haven't been out shoveling, which is great. Although I will say, holy man, we are getting a lot of rain. Are you getting a lot of rain or is it dry where you are? Because I mean, climate is just so interesting right now. Some of you may know, like I work with farmers. I'm a grain broker, so I find grain and then find buyers who want it and kind of set up those deals. I'm like a dating website between buyers and sellers of grain. And so when I'm doing that though, like I'm talking to a lot of people around the area, and it's again, weather patterns are just crazy, but it's interesting to see, and just we're getting just so much rain, but not everybody else is. Okay, I'm going to wipe these tools down before they get too sticky with this, because it's very granular because it's got glitter in it, right? So it's uh, hold my palette up here. This is actually this is my Cricut tool here, actually. But you can see, I don't know if you can see how grainy it is. That's just the glitter that's in the, uh, well, they call it a glitter paint. So I guess technically it's what's in the paint. But okay, I'm gonna put that to the side. I'm gonna put that to the side. I'm actually gonna put my pin away because my luck, I'll end up sneezing and it'll fall off my table, and then I'll probably end up stepping on it or something. Okay, I'm going to pull this out of the way so you guys can kind of get a pretty good look at it. So here we go. So this is my finished card, basically. So I've completed it. It looks great. I'm really happy with it. I like the grounding. You can see, let's see if you can hold that up. So you can see the texture of the snow and the lights, and then there's a little bit of glitter. So I think that's a really great Christmas card. Okay. And it hasn't even warped that badly, which is great because there was a lot of water that was put on here. So now what I would do, so obviously I can't do that now because I have to wait for everything to dry. So I'm not going to do that now, but I would put some thick strips of foam tape on the back of here, because that does tend to also help pull out some of the flattening, like some helps with some of the warping, because it's got a good strong adhesion to it usually, so it kind of helps pull that in. Then what I would do is put it on, so I've already pre-cut this mat here, so I will like put that down like that, and then we have the card base, although I didn't, let's see here. Let's see if I can do this without dropping it, because all right. It's like when you've got a buttered or like a piece of toast that you put jam on, always lands jam side down. So I really don't want to drop this because all of that would go smooshy, smooshy. Okay, so that would be the card. So that's basically how I would finish it. And then I could put a sentiment on the inside, but I don't have to. There is a Merry Christmas from our home to yours on the top. Um, yeah, what do you guys think? Hopefully you enjoyed that. This is kind of my bonus. I'm just gonna post it probably before the end of July, I think. Well, I mean, clearly you'll see when it goes out, but that's, I think, going to be my plan is to do that. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Again, I had created one last year and wanted to show it, but I missed Christmas in July, and then The Christmas season was full bore, and I didn't have time to do a Lavinia video because they take a while. So, that's going to be, so here's what it looks like. Essentially, that's the finished card. Ta-da! So this will be the one that you guys will see in the thumbnail. Please remember to, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment, subscribe, share with your friends. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them. Remember to keep your comments kind, and I will see you in the next video. Again, please let me know too if you've been enjoying the Christmas in July. Was it worth it for me to do it? Maybe you don't want me to do that because, I could not do it next year then. Anyway, talk to you guys all later, and I hope you have a wonderful night. Bye bye.